What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the weapons in Black Ops Cold War's multiplayer, and in today's episode we're going to be moving on to the Bullfrog SMG, and with this one our base damage is 34, 25, 22, which means it's going to take you 5, 6, or 7 shots to kill. This is a low damage SMG, and it's also worth noting there are no body multipliers with this. As for headshots, we have a standard multiplier of 1.4, and essentially what this means is up close it's going to take you 2 headshots mixed in with body shots to reduce the number of shots to kill, which is somewhat practical in some situations. However, at mid to long range, it's going to take you 3 headshots mixed in with body shots, which simply isn't practical most of the time. So up close, I would say headshots are moderately effective, but beyond that, don't worry about them at all. As for our rate of fire, this is 750 rounds per minute, which is pretty decent for an SMG in this game at least. And therefore it is a relatively forgiving gun if you happen to miss the odd bullet or two. And what this means for our time to kill potential is up close our time to kill is 320 milliseconds, which is actually the slowest in the SMG category, and this is actually beat out by a couple assault rifles as well. So time to kill definitely isn't a strong suit with this gun. I should also point out if you do manage to land those 2 headshots mixed in with 2 body shots up close, our time to kill potential is 240 milliseconds, which is actually extremely good. As for our bullet velocity though, this isn't too great. It's 250 meters per second, which is technically among some of the faster SMGs, but it's still extremely slow, especially when compared to an assault rifle, for instance. So this will definitely hold you back for those longer range gunfights unless you boost this with a barrel attachment. Speaking of ranges, as you can see here, our 5-shot kill range is very good for an SMG. This actually has the best range properties out of all of the SMGs by a noticeable margin. Our 5-shot kill range is 19 meters, and then our 6-shot kill range extends all the way out to 37.5 meters, which is amazing for an SMG. As for suppressors, we do have our standard range reductions for SMGs here, and the same thing goes with the barrels. There's nothing too surprising here with these range values at all. And now let's have a look at hardcore modes, which as you can see, our 1-shot kill range extends out to 19 meters, which is pretty solid for a lower damage SMG. Moving on, taking a look at Hipfire, the Bullfrog does have the worst Hipfire spread out of all of the SMGs, just by a little bit, but it is technically worse. And then when we have a look at idle sway, you can see here there's very little idle sway with this gun. It barely moves at all when aiming down sight. As for recoil, we've got a pretty interesting recoil pattern with this. When you first start firing with this gun, your first few bullets will kick to the right, and sometimes they'll even trend a little bit downward, which is very strange. You don't see that with very many guns in this game. But then after that, it starts kicking up and slightly to the left with a decent amount of horizontal bounce. Personally, I rarely have any issues controlling the recoil with this gun, but sometimes that horizontal recoil will come into play and throw you off target. As for our aim down sight time, this is pretty standard for SMGs at 275 milliseconds. And it's the same story with our sprint out time. The stated sprint out time is 350 milliseconds, but the actual experienced sprint out time is more like 233 milliseconds, which is pretty normal for an SMG. Now, getting into our reload add time, this is the slowest reloading SMG at 2.12 seconds. This is a very slow reload time, but it also has a massive base magazine capacity, so it does kind of balance out in that sense. But if you guys want to see the reload times for all of the magazine attachments, there they are right in front of you, so you guys can make decisions based on that. And then we'll have a quick look at our movement speed, which there's nothing much to say here. This is the exact same as all of the other SMGs, which is to say we've got a great movement speed potential with this gun. And with that, let's have a quick look at our strengths and weaknesses with this gun. The strengths are pretty obvious. It has a massive magazine capacity in relation to the other SMGs. It also has the best range by far in the SMG category. And I also wanted to throw in here, I just personally think the iron sights are great on this, and I don't feel like an optic is ever really needed with this gun. As for the weaknesses though, we do have a very slow bullet velocity, just like most of the SMGs. We also have the slowest time to kill out of all of the SMGs, which definitely holds this gun back. And then finally, it has the slowest reload time in the SMG category. Now, before we hop into the attachment combinations and recommended class setups that I've got, let's quickly cover the Task Force barrel, which is the one that increases your damage. On the Bullfrog, we only get a 3% increase to our damage, which is very, very minimal. And effectively speaking, this never changes the number of shots to kill to the body on a full health enemy. However, one nice thing with this is it does make it so in that maximum damage range up close, it will now only take you 1 headshot mixed in with body shots to get a 4-shot kill instead of the standard 5-shot kill. Additionally, we do get a bullet velocity increase and a range increase here, and therefore this is one of those guns where I can definitely see an argument for using the Task Force barrel However, a big thing to keep in mind is it does massively increase your recoil, as you can see here, and I just personally find that this massive increase to your recoil will generally be hurting you more than it's helping you. The fact that it takes one less headshot up close to kill is kind of counteracted by the fact that it's going to be that much more difficult to land that headshot in the first place. I honestly feel more comfortable landing 2 headshots without this barrel than 1 headshot with this barrel. So I personally don't use it, but at the same time, I could see why for some people they would like to use it. And with that, it's now finally time to move into some of my favorite attachment combinations and example class setups. And the first one I've got for you guys here, this is a pretty basic class setup, similar to a lot of the ones that I would normally build. With this, we've got a suppressor, the 8.1-inch Liberator barrel. This is the one that just boosts our bullet velocity. And the reason I'm using this one instead of the one that boosts your velocity as well as your range is I don't really feel like this gun needs an extra range boost. It's mainly bullet velocity that it needs to compete at range, and that's why I go with the Liberator here. Then we've got the Spetsnaz grip, which helps with our vertical and horizontal recoil, which as you can see here, it really significantly cuts down on that recoil and makes it much easier to hit your target. Then we got our speed tape for a bit of an increase to our aim down sight speed, and then finally the no stock attachment, which helps with our sprint out time. And when we have a look at the stats of this, our range value is still great at 16.19 meters. Our velocity is as good as it's going to get with this gun at 500 meters per second. Reload add time is the same as normal because we're using the standard magazine. Sprint out time is very fast, and our aim down sight time is pretty decent. And taking this one into an example class setup, I've got dual Diamattis as my secondary, Stim Shot as my tactical, my lethal is a Semtex, and the field upgrade is a trophy system. And then for our perks, we're using Perk Greed, and we've got Flak Jacket, Tac Mask, Assassin Scavenger, and finally Ninja and Ghost. This build right here is sort of my go-to build with most SMGs. You could replace the Bullfrog with any other SMG, and it's just a really effective class setup, at least for me and my intended playstyle. Now, as for the next class setup, we're going to be using the Gunfighter wildcard, so we get 8 attachments on here. And with this, we're using the Snap Point Optic, just because I really like the looks of that. We've got the Muzzle Brake, because I don't want to be reducing my ranges at all with suppressors, so the Muzzle Brake is just a nice choice that doesn't hurt the gun in any way. Then after that, we've got the 7.1-inch extended barrel, which just gives us a slight boost to our bullet velocity. And the reason I'm going with this, you'll see it as I start going through the rest of the attachments, the main focus with this build is keeping our aim walking movement speed as high as possible so we can strafe back and forth in gunfights really effectively. But after that, we've got the mounted flashlight to help with that reveal distance. This is a great cartel build, for instance. We've got the Bruiser grip to help with a bunch of our movement speeds. The Vandal speed loader so we can get a really quick reload time and it doesn't really hurt it too much in the aim down sight time department. Then we got the Spetsnaz field grip, which gives us a nice boost to our aim down sight time and our flinch resistance. And then finally the Spetsnaz PKM stock, which boosts our aim walking movement speed and our shooting movement speed. So as you can see here, we maintain a great range profile for an SMG. Our velocity is still pretty slow here, so you don't want to challenge people at super long ranges. Reload add time is really fast for the Bullfrog at least. Sprint out time is decent enough. Same thing goes with their aim down sight time. They're not amazing, but they're okay. But the main highlight here is our aim walking movement speed is 94%. So the way you want to handle this particular setup is you want to be strafing back and forth in every single gunfight you get into. And you're trying to make yourself a harder target to hit to make up for the fact that this gun just doesn't kill as fast as most other SMGs up close. And taking this one into an example class setup, we've got dual magnums, a stun grenade, tomahawk, assault pack, and then for our perks, we've got flak jacket, quartermaster, as well as ninja. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the Bullfrog. As for my thoughts on this gun, I think it's a very solid gun. Despite the fact that it's the slowest killing SMG, it doesn't really feel like it. It just feels good in my hands. I enjoy using it. It's not the most competitive gun out there, but I feel like it's one of those guns that are just easy to use. That is just my opinion though. I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about the Bullfrog? Also, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, I will of course leave a link to the playlist in the description down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.